Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am here with week 16 of my Read What You Own Platinum Challenge, where I have challenged myself to read 100 books that I already own before buying another book. This challenge will eventually morph into the 500 book challenge. And what have I been reading this week? The first book that I finished was an audiobook for the Booktube prize, so I can't say too much about it other than I read it. I did listen to it as an audiobook, but I went ahead and I checked out the library book in print just to verify that there were no diagrams or photos or whatnot that could potentially affect my decision when ranking my orders for the Booktube prize. This is the story of a girl growing up in Albania during the communist era, and it's about how Albania becomes non-communist as she's becoming an adult. That's really all I can say about this book right now. The second book that I finished, which is 79th in my challenge, and free was book 78, is Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut. There is a Kurt Vonnegut reading group that we're going through all of Kurt Vonnegut's works. Maybe all of them, but this is the one we read, Player Piano. That is his first novel. It is very much a Kurt Vonnegut novel. You can see his later distinctiveness in this book. It's not quite the Kurt Vonnegut that you were expecting when like Slaughterhouse-Five or Cat's Cradle, but it's pretty decent. And it is remarkably prescient for its time. It is the story of the future. It is a future story, but I hesitate to call this science fiction. And anyway, in this futurist society, machines do most of the work for people, and most people don't work. And there are engineers and managers. Those are the elites. The rest of the people, not so much. And this is a story of one of the engineers who decides to buck the system. And he starts losing credibility with the system. And one of the humorous things about this is that later in life, as an adult, he's grown, he gets a notice from his undergraduate college saying, "We've noticed that you did not finish all your physical education requirements for your degree, so we are rescinding your degree." And because he does not have a bachelor's degree, he does not have his master's degree, because you need a bachelor's to have your master's, and if he doesn't have his master's, he doesn't have his PhD. So he's kind of hosed. And he becomes a leader of the revolt against the culture of the machines. And why this is never going to be one of my favorite Kurt Vonnegut novels. It will not stand up with his great later works. I did thoroughly enjoy it. And I like the way it thought about humanity and machines, and how in our society today, are we not turning over more and more responsibilities to machines? Do you not go into a grocery store and you have automatic checkouts? You don't need that little cashier to help you out. We now have AI to write poetry, to create thumbnails for your YouTube videos, to create essays. And who knows, maybe in time, all YouTube videos will be created by machines, and only managers and engineers will be the true people. Well worth thinking about. And if you like Kurt Vonnegut, do pick it up. The next book I finished was an audiobook, again for the Booktube prize. I do not have a physical copy to hold up, as I did with the last one, because my library system out here in the sticks does not carry it. And that was Bodywork, The Radical Power of Personal Narrative by Melissa Febos. After that, I read, or attempted to read, a book from Michael K. Vaughan's book group, the Old Rogers Cheap Old Book Club, and that was The Forgotten Planet by Murrey, Leinster. And that was a digital copy on my Kindle. It is free in public domain. And I got through about 120 pages of about 174 pages. And I eventually just threw in the towel. It starts off very peculiar for a science fiction novel. It talks about robotic ships seeding a planet and then waiting a few hundred years, and another ship comes by and seeds some more items. Like first they put in fungi and plants, and then they put in insects. And eventually, after a couple generations, or I should say a couple thousand years, the robotic ships lose the card reader. You know those old punch cards with all those holes punched in for computers? They lost that. So society in the future lost knowledge of this planet they were seeding for colonization. And they only got through to putting in basically the plants and the insects. So the insects have evolved on this planet into very large sizes. And then there comes a spaceship that has an accident in space, and they crash land on this planet. And no one knows where this ship crashed. No one knows about this forgotten planet with large insects. So that's a good setup. And then it is a story of a man, I forgot his name. I think his name is Burl. He is humans have basically forgotten their past. They no longer knew they were a spacefaring race. They are just entities struggling to survive on this planet of giant insects. And you would think that a man fighting giant insects would be a very exciting story. No, it's not an exciting story. It's rather banal, so I DNF'd it. And my apologies to Michael K. Vaughan and Old Rogers Cheap Old Book Club for bowing out of this one a little early. And finally, I DNF'd another book. I had actually read most of this book a few weeks ago, but I had finally decided it has come time at the end of February to admit that reading this book was a failure. This was book 82. This is Paradise Lost by John Milton. It was originally supposed to be a buddy read with big hard books and classics. That's Alan and Sean D. Steadfast. And all three of us DNF'd this book. Now, the reason I DNF'd this book is that it's just not relevant anymore, I think. At one time, and I still think it's possibly true, that Paradise Lost was the greatest epic poem of the English language. Milton did wonders when he first wrote this. One of the most amazing things he did is he wrote verse that did not rhyme. And I was watching a college professor talk about that. And it caused quite a bit of trouble back in the 1600s because it's a poem. It's supposed to rhyme. But Milton freed poetry from the tyranny of rhyme. Also in this book there are a lot of biblical references. You have to know a lot of these characters that he's talking about from the Bible. I do not know my Bible at all. So I was going through this and going, okay, who is this character? Do I want to look it up on Wikipedia so I can understand all the references and trying to figure out what Milton is talking about, who this person Milton is talking about is. And I decided, no, I did not want to go into that level of studying this poem. So I'm reading this poem, and I know not only are there biblical references, there are counterparts that he's talking about in England, in the political situation, about the tyranny of the English government as he saw it. And a lot of that was lost on me. So I got through about book 5, and I came to the conclusion that this is not a poem that can be read by a modern reader without a whole lot of extra education in the Bible and historical English government people. So I DNF'd it. I don't regret it. I am still convinced that it is probably still one of the greatest epic poems of the English language. It's just not relevant to this retired computer programmer in America in the 21st century. And that's everything that I read or DNF'd for the week. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.